Recently, Complex released their most influential women in sports, their 10 best women who have had the most influence in the realm of sports. This list featured athletes like Coco Gauff, Juju Watkins, Cameron Brink, Paige Beckers, but the top three was rounded out by Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, and Simone Biles, with Simone Biles being 3, Angel Reese being 2, and Caitlin Clark being number 1. Unfortunately, there was a bit of backlash when people saw that Angel Reese was in the top 2 behind Caitlin Clark, as some who felt like Simone Biles should have been easily the second or first place decision in this list. However, I do push back on the idea that Simone Biles is more influential than Angel Reese, especially recently. If this list was considered who's the most decorated athletes or most accomplished athletes in women's sports, I think easily Simone Biles would be at the top of this list. I mean, even Caitlin Clark, she didn't win a national championship in college. She hasn't won a championship in the WNBA, and neither has Angel Reese. Angel Reese does have a national championship under her belt. However, she still hasn't done enough in the WNBA to be warned as one of the most decorated players at her respective sport. However, when I look at Simone Biles, yes, she's going to go down, and she's on the Mount Rushmore of women athletes. You will put her with the Serena Williams of the world, Asia Wilsons, the Cheryl Millers, the Billie Jean Kings. That is the type of athlete she has been and how accomplished she has been. But when we talk about influence, the eyes that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have put on the WNBA, on women's basketball, they're making the game more iconic. We're at a point where the WNBA is set to expand to 4 different teams, 2 coming this past season, 2 more upcoming in the upcoming years. So when I look at all of these things, Angel Reese does have some influence in how basketball is progressed. I compare Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese a lot to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson when they came into the NBA. And obviously they're not saving the WNBA from going under or anything like that, like Magic and Bird did to save the NBA. However, they did bring a new level of attention to the WNBA, not only from a sponsorship standpoint, I think as well as just a global impact on viewership. And as the WNBA continues to grow, those 2 athletes will be looked at as like the 2 cornerstone pieces in order to elevate the WNBA. I love Simone Biles. She is literally the greatest gymnast of all time. But if we're talking about the last 5 years, I don't think there's been a bigger influence in women's sports than the one that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have had over the last 2 or 3 years. Not only that, it has been obvious that media have enjoyed what those 2 have been to the sport as well. I think a lot of times they've been pitted against each other as almost rivals. And yes, they played against each other in college. However, both have a mutual respect for one another and both understand the level of impact that they're having on the game. But Noel, what did you think about this list? And did you think the Complex got it right, or did they get it wrong?
Yeah, I think Complex got it right. And the big thing with Simone Biles, all the respect in the world to her. I mean, she won 3 gold medals this past 2024 Olympics in Paris, 4 of them, total 4 of them, 3 of them being gold. But the biggest thing is she said it's going to be a long shot for her to participate in the 2028 Olympics. When it comes to her specific sport, her career could pretty much be done, whereas Angel Reese just completed her first season in WNBA. Angel Reese is pushing a lot of boundaries off the court, similar to what Simone Biles was doing over the years, but Angel Reese is smack dab in the middle of the social media era. She's having an influence on the WNBA, on all the younger athletes on the come up. When I look at this list on Forbes, 7 of the 10 most influential female athletes are basketball players. It's crazy. I see Juju Watkins, only 19 years old. I see, Caitlin Clark up there at number 1, Cameron Brink, who also just finished her rookie season. I think basketball is the it sport when it comes to what young women are looking at growing up and what sport they're looking to play. They see these girls are able to hold their own, build their own identities. And Angel Reese, as much as people want to look at her stats and they want to say she's not as skilled as someone like a Caitlin Clark, she has caused a lot of conversations. She hasn't been afraid to say, you guys are watching because of me too. And it's true. If you look at the ratings, of course, nobody's going to come close to Caitlin Clark, but coming up in those LSU days where she was out there competing, she was leading her team to natties. I think it goes without being said that she should be number 2. She has her own podcast, brings on a number of guests, just had that McDonald's deal that we were talking about. So I have all the respect for everybody on this list, but I think in current day, in 2025, Angel Reese should be at that number 2 slot.
Yeah, no doubt. I think there's not 2 female athletes more polarizing at this point than Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And honestly, they'll probably be intertwined, at least for the next decade. I feel like we'll be following both of their careers closely. And I'll be honest, they're both immensely talented. You know, we have one of the greatest shooters in the WNBA in Caitlin Clark. And I'll admit, Angel Reese, even after one season in the WNBA, she's a top 2 rebounder in the sport. I mean, I think the only better rebounder than her right now is probably Asia Wilson. But outside of that, I couldn't put another player over her just due to her effort and her skill set at the rim. I think a lot of people give her a lot of flack for how she finishes at the rim, but also Noelle, she's the one grabbing the rebound.
Yeah.
You know, like she's out hustling most of the people in her class. And so when I watch her play the sport, not only is she able to talk the talk, she is able to walk the walk. I mean, she made one of the inaugural teams for Unrivaled that she just played in. And so when I look at all these things, not only the podcast, you brought up the McDonald's, she also is with Reebok, has her own sneaker. There's so many people backing her and trying to making sure that she is elevated to new heights. And she's done a great job of putting herself in this position that I think being in that top 2 with Caitlin Clark, I think it's no doubt and no brainer.
Absolutely. And I think also her holding the WNBA accountable for all the attention that her and these, young superstars are bringing to the WNBA now, making sure that they're going to get paid, that CBA is going to be something that's beneficial for both sides, and making it known that if they don't get that, they're not going to play. I mean, after just one season in WNBA, J-Rob, that's quite the confidence. And that shows, that is influence right there. So many people are going to look at her comments and actually tune in and actually talk about it like we are right now. And I think that just completely shows it right there that she should be number 2.
Yeah, no doubt. And honestly, speaking of that CBA you mentioned, it's great that it's coming like right on the heels of Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark finishing their rookie seasons in the WNBA, due to the fact that when you go into that 2026 year for the WNBA, there's going to be a complete elevation. You're going to have an expanded league with expansion teams. And not only that, there's probably going to be more sponsorship opportunities. And so when there's more sponsorship opportunities and revenue coming in, that means you got to elevate the salary cap. And so I feel like due to this influence that has been brought to the WNBA recently, these women are going to extremely benefit for some of the details that might come in this new CBA. And I don't think there'll be a holdout. I do really feel like the powers that be in the WNBA will do right by these women, because the WNBA has been around for so long, and a lot of the Sue Birds of the world, the Diana Taurasi's of the world, the Maya Moores, they've laid down such a great foundation for this league that I really, truly believe that the future for the WNBA is immensely bright. Like, I think we will be looking at them in maybe 20, 30 years from now as like one of the 5 best leagues in North America.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah.